Get your questions answered by Deb and Jen.
Deb and Jen are at it again.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Deb and Jen Show. We're happy to have you here. I'm Coach Deb.
And I am Coach Jen.
And this is when we take your questions, teach a little bit, share a little bit, coach a little bit, anything related to marketing and sales, speaking and messaging, all critical elements of building a business. You got to be able to know how to talk about it, how to convert it if you're going to make any money doing business online or off. All right. So Jen, we actually had a couple of questions come in. I thought we could kick off with those and we can riff on some of the answers if you want, because it'll be a learning experience for anyone who listens. And I think these are ones, I got two. I think you might have had one, but these are things that come up often. So I think they'll apply to many people. All right. So this one was, I was talking to a prospective customer and I went through my program and they sounded really interested. Then I got to the price and they hesitated and said it was too expensive. So my question is, should I lower my price in order to get the sale?
You should definitely lower your price as cheap as you can make it. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Time out. You should not lower your price. And if anyone, whomever you are, if you listening to this right now ever considers lowering your price to get someone to buy from you, then just listen to this episode again or send me a message and I will tell you, stop it. Here's the reason why. Here's the reason why. Price is the last reason. The last reason. In all seriousness, it's the last reason that someone chooses to buy from you. It's not about the money. So I'm going to give you an example. Think of a time in your life where you wanted something so badly. Could have been a car, could have been a vacation, could have been a new pair of shoes, right? Exactly. Whatever. I don't care if it's steak dinner, if you're a vegan, not a steak dinner, whatever it is.
An expensive bottle of wine that you have your eye on, anything.
Like, oh, I really would love to have that, whether it's an experience or a physical thing, whatevs. You wanted it. You wanted it so much that when you fell asleep, sometimes you thought about it before your head hits the pillow and you're thinking about it, or you dream about it, or you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh my gosh, what would I have to do to be able to get that new purse or that new whatever? What would I have to do to be able to take that vacation? You get the point. I want you to think of a moment in your life when you felt that feeling, when your stomach was a little, like had butterflies in it and you're like, okay, well, how could I do it? You find yourself almost ruminating on how you can get that thing or make that trip happen or make that experience, that coaching program, that whatever it was that you wanted. You think about ways to make it a reality for you. That is what you're going for when you are like marketing to your audience. So in that moment, I want you to realize that price was not the primary motivator there. They were in an emotional state, not an intellectual state. They were thinking, man, I got to figure this out. I want it. They weren't thinking like, man, it's $2,000. I wish it was $1,600. Like it might've crossed their mind, but it didn't dissuade this person or you in this scenario, it didn't dissuade you from wanting it. So don't lower your price because it's not about that. It's about how you have positioned your solution to help your client. It's about how conscious your client is that they have a problem and they need you, not me, not Coach Deborah. They need you to solve it. So it's all about your messaging and what happens up to that moment when you share the investment. So don't lower your price. Bottom line.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So let's expand a little bit on the idea that you brought up with all the other things we may have lusted after in our lives and trying to figure out how to afford it. You want to present your offer, your solution in such a compelling way that they're going to hang up and go figure out how to get the money. In other words, it would be stupid of them to say no, even if the money's not in their bank account, but they're going to figure out how to make it happen. So your next question logically will be, well, how do I do that? Okay. Mm-hmm. That's where the rubber meets the road, actually. You want to paint a picture that's so compelling in terms of how their life could be, what their future could look like, what they'll be able to be, do, say, have, achieve, feel, overcome, any of those things as a result of working with you. And you can do this in a number of ways. It would take a 2-day workshop, but the idea is you paint the picture in an emotional way that they can lock onto. They're like, oh, I really want that. Like, do you want to go out for a steak, or do you want to go out with a charbroiled ribeye over an open flame, seared where the juices are seared in, served with a side of grilled onions and mushrooms, tantalizing your taste buds? Or do you just want to go out for a steak?
All right,
Okay,
the
you want
cheapest
to paint
steak
the
you can
picture.
find too, like
Yeah.
that. You want to go out for the cheapest steak you can possibly find, or that steak that Coach Deborah just mentioned.
Right. And apologies to the vegans. We can use any kind of food here, strawberries, doesn't matter. The point is you paint an emotional picture so that they want it, so that they realize how much their life will be improved, whether it's dating advice, whether it's how to market online, whether it's how to speak from stage, how much their life is going to improve as a result of what solution you're bringing to them. All right. You really need to do your homework there, because if you try to close the sale before that's done, they are going to haggle with price. They're going to find another reason because they haven't been emotionally invested yet in that possibility. Our job when talking to them is to get them emotionally invested. Remember, we've said this before. Here's where people are. This is their state now. This is where they want to be. Both sides may be a bit fuzzy. Our solution is the bridge they walk over to get there. So one of the methods you can use is you make the where they are. Which hand did I say was they are? I'm backwards on the screen.
Other
Okay,
hand.
so you make where they are. I used the wrong hand then. If this is where if this is where they are and they want to be here, okay, our course is the bridge they walk over to get to where they want to be. That's what I wanted to say. Okay. So here is an advanced technique you want to be thinking about. You want to help ripen their awareness of where they are. I like to say most people are sleepwalking. They push down below the surface what's really going on because they, quote, can't deal with it. They'd rather go shopping, go to the movies, have a bag of Doritos, anything, but think about that thing that's bugging them. That's less than in their life, right? So our job is to ripen the side of where they are, make it really concrete, aware, bring it back up to the surface. Because why? A problem in the light of day can be solved. When it's hidden down in the shadows, you're like, I'm not sure, things aren't going well, but I don't know why. Well,
Yeah.
help them discover why, help them articulate it, right? Then the other side, you paint that picture so beautifully of what could open up for them, what's possible, the future they really want. In fact, ask them to describe it to you. Have them use their own words to say, well, if you could wave a magic wand, what would you want to be able to happen as a result of this dating program, or as a result of this marketing program, or once you get better at sales, what would you love to see happen? Have them express it and keep pushing them to be even more and more expressive, more visceral in how they describe it. Now, what have we done? We've got two really scintillating and visible sides of the equation, right? So now, what have we just done? We've created tension, big tension between where they are and where they want to be. No one likes tension. They're going to want to break that tension. They want that tension resolved. So that's where your offer comes in. You go, I get it. It's frustrating to want this thing so badly and to be waiting so long for it. So I've worked with so many people just like you in this very same position. And I have something I think could really help you. With your permission, I'd love to share it. No, I don't want your help. Never.
Yeah. Who's going to say, right?
Yeah, who's going to say no, right?
Better be
Then you go
$50.
into your offer and you present it in a way that includes what they said they wanted and also includes where they are now. You keep bringing it back to the equation. You keep them in the emotional state. People buy from emotions and follow up with logic. So if your emotional aspect is missing, probably the sale's going to be missing. Unless it's a pair of sandals you just need because you're going to the beach and they're on sale for $19. And even if you don't like them at the end of the day, it's probably not going to kill you to spend $19, right?
Yeah, you might not even pack them in your suitcase to take them home.
Yeah. I mean, we've all got stuff in our closet with tags on, right? So we do it all the time. However, for a high ticket investment, and for high ticket, for some people, it could be 500, it could be 2,500 or 5,000 or more. you have to get them emotionally invested. Totally.
Yeah.
You have to be able to feel it.
And you may have heard the phrase before that by lowering prices over and over again, it's a race to the bottom to see who can be the cheapest, to be who can be just a commodity. We're like, oh yeah, I kind of need that. I'll go get it and I'll figure out what the cheapest way is that I can solve that problem.
Yeah.
You don't want to be a commodity. You do not want to compete with all the bigger fish in the sea that can afford to sell something for $100 because they've got a 10K or a 20K program or a service or a product or something on the back end. If you think you're going to compete in a market, especially if you've got a mature market, which what I mean by a mature market is it's been around a while. There's enough people in it and have been figuring it out. Like weight loss is a good example. The weight loss market is a mature market. So they're bigger companies and, like Jenny Craig, Weight Watchers, there's apps called Noom, all sorts of things, right? So if you think as a newbie coming onto the scene, you're going to compete directly with, let's say, Weight Watchers as an example, and you're going to, I don't know what Weight Watchers has right now going on, but in the past, because I used to have a weight loss clinic, they've got like cheap meals, right? It's like $20 or $50 or something a month. And you get all sorts of services, all sorts of programs, like an insane amount potentially of support that you're like, seriously, $50? How can they do that? Because they're Weight Watchers. They got a bunch of money.
They're going on volume, right? So
yeah, exactly. Right. So they've got tens of thousands, if not hundreds, probably hundreds of thousands of people paying that $25, $50 a month. So it works for them. But if you come in and you say, I'm going to do all this stuff and I'm just going to market and brand without really connecting to my client and serving their specific need, like Coach Deborah is talking about, like, tell me where you're at. Like, how is that suffering impacting your relationships, your self-esteem, your marriage, your work, your ability to create income or to enjoy your hobbies? How is that impacting you? What do you wish was happening? Wow. How do you plan to get there? What have you tried to bridge that gap?
yeah.
Because they didn't figure anything out yet. Otherwise, they wouldn't be talking to you about it.
Right.
They probably tried a lot of different things. Like, look, I get it. Man, like it sounds like you're really struggling to figure that out. And I'm excited we're having this conversation because I love helping people solve this. This is exactly what I do. But until then, until the problem is established and agreed upon, you showing up and recommending a solution will not create a sale. I mean, maybe 3% of the time, because you're going to get some people that just are like, take my credit card. But if you really want to create consistency, yeah, you got to take them to an emotional state that they're already in.
Yeah, that's the thing.
They're
already in that emotional state. They're just submerging it because they don't want to deal with it, right? So you're bringing it back up by getting them to talk about it and share with you. You're getting them back in that emotional state, and they're not going to like it. It's uncomfortable. They may like do little facial tics because they're like, "No, I don't want to talk about that. That last guy was a jerk."
Yeah, or they do what I call the head fake, where they're like, "Oh yeah," like they get really extra polite instead of going dark of like confused. They do this thing like just kind of glossing over the question at hand. That's really common also. And I don't know if we're still just on the price question. Should I lower my price? But
right.
When you're asking people to be vulnerable with you, I want to encourage you to be vulnerable yourself and make space for them to get real so that you don't get the head fake of like, yeah, it really is hard. The fact that my marriage is probably ending and I'm going to have to move out of my house and I'm going to, relocate and move my kids to another school. It's very difficult right now. I'm like, okay, that's
what we're managing.
BS answer, frankly, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So don't go there. Go ahead.
Okay, so I want to say, give you a little funny about should I lower my price? Okay. I live in the LA area, and you drive by billboards that say implants $497, and it's often the billboards in English and Spanish, and you're thinking, to my knowledge, implants are around $2,500 each, right?
Yeah.
I want to go to the $497 guy. Would that be my first choice?
It's like way too many.
There's a reason why it's cheap, right? I always say that. There's a reason why it's cheap.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't want to be the cheap implants. You want to be a high value service. And you want to be able to stand behind that, knowing that what you offer is high value. And if you need to, brainstorm on a piece of paper. This is why this transformation is worth it. By the way, it's not about you, really. It's not what you're worth. It's what the transformation is worth to them. Now, are they going to choose you because they They can imagine that they'll enjoy working with you and that you're their kind of person, of course. But ultimately, what they're paying for is the transformation that your program, course, solution will help create for them. Okay.
So many things. Like
So many
the
things.
whole entire, not just this show, but all the shows could just be about money and money mindset and these twisted ways that our brains, not us, not your fault, but this twisted way that our brain can try to make up stories about value, about esteem, about deliverable, about service, about, I don't know, robbing from the poor and, giving
Yeah.
to the rich, right? Like all these things.
And our whole society is structured to always find a cheaper way, like the Dollar Shave Club. What was the razor company that was like, you don't need to pay $24 for a new razor, and we'll send you a pack of blades for $4.50 or whatever. And it's like, you're right, they don't have to pay that much money, but they've been led to believe they do, that there's higher value there. And then you have these other companies coming in and say, no, we can provide similar or equal quality for far less money. So now you have all this calibration thinking going on in our heads all the time. So your customer is going to be inclined to look for, is there another way to navigate this? So you stand firm and say, yeah, I know we're always looking for a better price, aren't we? But let me share with you again why the value of, why this transformation could be so valuable to you, and just restate what you already stated and hold fast to that value. All right.
Yep. And we'll have to do one on like the full sales conversation. We'll have to do a show on that or give
Like a role play.
Yeah, just to go through it, even a short version of it. Because a half an hour to do a long version is probably not enough time. But
yeah,
I think to see the overview of how you set things up so that price becomes not an objection or an issue at the end, especially if you're getting a price objection a lot. If you're getting, I think if you get a price objection more than 20% of the time, you've got another fish to fry. Another
one of these poles, one of these ends needs attention, or both.
Yeah, right. Right. Exactly.
All right. Can we do the next question? I'll read it out to you.
Okay, go for it. Sure.
Okay,
Yes.
All right. This one is from Lindsay. In case, Lindsay, you're listening to the recording. What is the best way to follow up with someone I meet at a networking event?
Oh, was this from the last time? Because we talked about, with a couple shows ago, we talked about following up. So yeah, my short summary first is go back and watch a couple shows ago. I don't know what the title of the show is, but maybe we can insert that on how to follow up and remember to follow up. There's two things that come to me off the top of my head. Number one is I put something in my phone. I get some kind of an appointment set up with them if I can. If it's a real interest, like they have a problem or vice versa, and we want to make sure we connect, then I will say, like, rather than leaving it on our to-do list, how about we just like whip out our phones and let's set something up. I do that because if I really
you do that in a moment. You do that.
I don't like trying to remember other things. I'm like, you're a quick start too. I'm a quick start. I'm like, I'm on to like the next thing and the next thing and the next thing, but it really is important to me. Doesn't mean what's in the past I don't care about. If I really do want to meet this person and follow up, I will say, awesome. Yes. Let's just like whip out phone and let's set something up, even if it's like a 10-minute or to just check in and see if we should have a longer conversation. So I will do that as best I can, because when I hear myself, I've trained myself that when I hear myself say, oh, I'd really love to get together. Oh, we should really follow up. My brain literally has like sirens, like, woo, woo, you're adding stuff to a to-do list that you're going to drop the ball on, Jennifer. So don't do it. So number one, I try to just book something. If I'm serious and if they're serious, we'll book it right then. Then I might send them like, hey, it was great to meet you. Looking forward to meeting you on whatever, April 29th at 3 p.m. at Starbucks. So I'll do that. Let's say for some freakish reason, I don't do that. Or it's like, oh my gosh, I really don't know when I could meet you. This is how I do it. And I'm just talking low volume here. I'm not talking about you have 500 people to follow up with. For low volume, when I walk away from the conversation, I take out my cell phone and I say, set a calendar appointment for 9 a.m. on Tuesday to follow up with Mary Jones. Set it and forget it. That's how I do it. If it's high touch follow up with let's say less than a dozen people. So
let's say you set it and remember it because you just did your little reminder in your phone. Do you call? I think part of the question I'm
Hmm.
intuiting here is, do you call them or email them? What do you think is better
Oh, goodness.
as a
I'll
follow-up?
I'll say how I do it.
Okay.
Because that's, if I thought a different way was better, then I would do it. But, that being said, I will just text them.
Or text them. I was going to say, yeah,
And here's
text.
the reason why, like the reason that I will text them is that I believe people do business with people that they like, that they feel a friendship or a connection with. Doesn't mean that you're gonna like be BFFs and go out for drinks on Friday every week now or something, right? Like not dinner at Applebee's every Sunday. However, I would rather like respond to messages and talk to people that I feel like we've got some type of a friend connection as well. Like, oh, she's cool. Even if we only ever do business together, I just want to keep it like that intimate. So that if I ever text her, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm having a challenge. Any chance you would talk to me? Like, let's say, I don't know, let's say I'm doing a launch and I just need help. I'd like to think of it that way, where I've got 20 to 30, 40, 50 people that are like, absolutely, what do you need? So I keep it intimate because I believe that I'm less likely to get ghosted, right? Like think of the people you ghost. You ghost like your friends and family. I mean, if they don't annoy you, like you actually really like them, you probably don't ghost them. But if it's just a business associate, exactly, you have to think about that. If it's just a business associate, like somebody who's like soliciting you at a networking event, you might be like, not today, not today. Like, I don't want to do it today. So I try to keep it really intimate and I will just shoot a text message. If I'm still trying to book an appointment with them, I'll shoot them a message and say, hey, Mary, met you. I'll say, here's where we met, like met you at the networking event on Tuesday. I know we said we were going to, get something on the schedule to get together this week. Wondering, and then I do a couple dual alternative closes. I will say, wondering, does Wednesday or Friday work better for you? Morning or afternoon? Give me a couple times that work for you and I'll pick one and send it back. If
Yeah.
I'm doing all of it outside of a calendar link, that's how I'll do it. So I don't just send them a message saying, I know we were going to get together. What does your week look like? Doesn't give their brain anything to anchor to. So I start to hone it into some options that are still flexible, right?
Yeah.
Wednesday, Friday,
You
morning or
could
afternoon.
you could send your Calendly link in the follow-up and say, hey, I have a bunch of slots available this week. Feel free to pick one and let's hop on let's have a chat.
Absolutely.
I
Yep.
always try to keep things chatty and conversational. Like let's just chat and explore each other's business or have a chat about what's going on. In the interest of like making a friend.
Mhm.
If you happen to unearth that there are some situations or problems that you could help with, you could say, hey, wow, that's the kind of stuff I deal with all the time. Do you want to talk more about that?
Mhm.
Be chatty, be conversational. Don't be pushy. It's not about it's not about angling for the sale. And I think, Jen, you say this all the time, what I'm about to say. It's about making a connection. Because remember, even if they're not your perfect right fit client, they may know someone who is. So you never want to leave a bad taste in their mouth, like, ooh, back away. You want to always think, like, wow, that was really great. They were really nice. They were very gracious and generous with their time and with their insights. I'm going to keep them in the back of my mind as somebody I could refer later. Maybe I'll need them later. Perfect example. I go to an in-person networking event, and at this event are two photographers. Okay, they more or less competitors with each other. They're both lovely people, but I've been observing them for several months now because I'm going to get new headshots taken at some point, and I'm thinking, okay, which one would I pick? And I'm leaning, and in fact, I already approached toward the one who is the most gracious to me, who I enjoy the way she speaks whenever she stands up and speaks in the room. I like her approach, her demeanor, her personality. And it just seems like she would be the kind of person that would pay kind attention, to the whole process. Now, it doesn't mean that the other one isn't that or wouldn't do that. It's just that this one stood out to me. She wasn't pushy. She was matter of fact. She probably could be a little more aggressive, to be honest, a little more assertive, but she isn't. And because I like that understatedness about her, and it's attractive. My point here is when we're talking with people to make a connection, we're following up with someone we met or someone we met online. Um, we just be conversational to make the connection. We're not being pushy to get the sale. I mean, I'm sure, like me, you get bombarded every day with dozens of emails that say, hey, I was looking over your LinkedIn profile or your Facebook page, very impressive. And I can see that you could really benefit from an HR person in your firm. I'm thinking, nah, what gave you that idea exactly?
Right, they're just making it up. I mean,
They're
it'd be
making
like
stuff up. They have no desire to create a connection, none whatsoever.
I mean,
And they're just, yeah. So
go
don't
ahead.
be that person.
Yeah,
Oh,
unsolicited advice also like just makes me crazy. That's a different topic, but it'd be like if you were married. I mean, I'm not married, but one of the two of us is married. And if you were married and let's say you're newly married, you can even still be in kind of like, oh, I love you so much phase, like the honeymoon phase, everything's perfect about you, etc. That if you woke up and the other person's like, hey, you know what? I wanted to tell you some things that I think you need to do today. You know, I think that you should really look at upgrading your wardrobe and that hair thing you've got going on. I know you just spent $250 to get it done, but I really think you should have done it differently. Like, I don't know how that's going to work out. I've got a good idea actually how that's going to work out for you, but it's the same thing when we solicit. Sometimes we show up trying to solve problems that we perceive as problems. But the other person's like, I think my HR department's good. I like them. Like, I don't even know you. How did you show up and just start bossing me around? So absolutely not about you. Be curious, make some friends, like be a good human and ask about them.
Get known as the kind person, the informative person, the one that's just gracious and generous. But let's stop here for a second and say, but don't just do that. Like,
Yeah.
don't stop there. You've got to have a plan, is how you're going to move a conversation from chatty to discovery to sale, right? So if it does turn into discovery, you want to go with it by asking their permission. Like, wow, it sounds like you're really grappling with da, 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 da. You know, that's something I help people with all the time. Would you like to explore that further? I'd love to share that with you if you're open. Like, get their permission to then launch into what it is that you can help them with. Okay. Don't just bombard them. That would be like walking in someone's house without ringing the doorbell.
Right.
Ringing the doorbell is asking for permission to come in. Same thing when you're talking to people. Ring the doorbell, ask for permission to share your offer. Okay. Okay. So Jen, what about your online and we don't have that much time left, but maybe quickly.
Okay.
How do you follow up with somebody like in a Facebook group? They've commented on your post. They really liked it. Oh, that was brilliant. Thank you. Let's say they post, that was great. I loved it. What do you do?
I might say, awesome. What do you love about it? Send, or like, tell me what you like the best. I will say something. I don't like jump right into like, okay, now we're in a relationship, right? Like, you don't know me. And that's where things come off as salesy and spammy. So I will just literally try to be their friend. To define that, let me define it a little bit. I will say something that is not remotely has a sniff of salesiness, right? I will just say, yeah, awesome, cool. Why'd you love it? Tell me what you loved about it. Oh, you have dogs too? How many dogs you have? That's amazing. How's that going? And that's literally how I can lead it into finding out if they need help. It's not trickery. I think that's probably the biggest thing. I'm not being nice to them to try to manipulate them into buying something from me. It's literally just, I liken it back to like telling a story about if your brother, your sister, your best friend, somebody that you love and care for, if it came up in a conversation that they were having a problem and you knew how to solve it, you would help them solve it, right? You wouldn't be like, well, yeah, I totally know how you can set up your retirement or how you could get your lawn mowed or you could whatever, like train your puppy. I know how to do that, but you know, it'll be salesy if I tell you, so I'm not going to tell you. Like, you wouldn't do that. You'd say, oh my gosh, but first you'd understand the problem. And I'm not being super fast. You'd say, wow, great, sister. Thanks for sharing that with me. Sounds like it's really tough. Like, it sounds like it's a big problem in your life. I could totally help you with it. Would you like me to help you?
Yeah.
That's it. It's really
and then, you know, let's say you accumulate a number of people who've commented on your posts.
Yep.
What I do is you can compile them all together and say, hey, loved interacting with you on my feed. I'm sending an email to everybody who's made a comment because I think you'd appreciate this article, or I wanted to let you know about something that's coming up that I'm so passionate about. I thought maybe you would be too.
Love it.
Now you can send an email to all of them or a Facebook message or something where, depending on where they found you, And that's okay, because you're basically saying, because we interacted, you're getting this. You have to do some of that, or there's no point. You don't want to just start 1,000 chats and do nothing with them. Okay, that's you're going to be known as Miss Chatty Cathy that goes nowhere, right? You've got to pursue the ultimate goal, but you still can do it in a nice way by doing the kind of follow-up message or email that I suggested.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think it's brilliant. I love that. And I would say like liken it to like putting deposits in a bank. I say
Yeah.
that a lot. Like you have to make deposits before you earn the right to make withdrawals. That being said, right, you don't want to stay in the friend zone where you're just chatty, 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 and it never goes anywhere. So 100%, I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah.
And I actually think that, at least for me, I can speak for it, and it might be true for you as well, is that's actually one of my superpowers. As I see it, other people may or may not agree with that, but one of my superpowers is, because I really am curious about people's problems and what motivates them to solve them, I can be jovial and lighthearted. And I feel like because of that connection, I earn the right pretty quickly to be very real as well. So I might come off kind of aloof. I like that about me, where I'm like, well, okay, whatever, life's life. And then I'm like, wait, seriously, you're struggling with that? Let's talk about it. Yeah, let's do that. So I think if I came off like very salesy or very stringent or very rigid, at least for me, right out of the gate, that doesn't work. But because I can create connection, it feels more appropriate and accepted to then get very serious and drill down like, hey, look, I do this, like, this is what I do. I'd love to share with you what it looks like. And they're like, yeah, you got me. Like, we're friends. Let's figure this out. Or you're someone that I trust. And that trust factor cannot be understated. And the only way you really get trust is you need to be trustworthy, right? You really need, like Deborah says, she always says it, you need to be interested in them, what their problem is, what they're struggling with, understand it, listen. Don't just ask and be thinking about yourself. And your sales will go through the roof when you just learn how to get connected and then make a recommendation.
It's really not complicated.
No, it isn't.
Okay, so that's all we have time for today. Any more questions? You're welcome to send them to questions. Email them to questions@debandjenshow.com, and we'll feature them on a future show. I would love to hear what's up for you so that we can focus orient our content around what matters to you most right now. Okay, Jen, thanks.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next time.
See you
That's
later.
all for now. Go out there and make the world a better place. Bye for now.
Ciao.